ready. This is going to be exciting.
Yeah, they got a car restart zone to go. Green flag is out and we're underway.
Just a few laps into this. Oh, the 37's getting loose. Oh, and he saves it. Oh, they're going 3 wide.
We've got a 5-way fight for the win of this race coming to 4 laps to go. He's gonna win it here in spectacular fashion.
It is time to decide who will be our regular season champion and who will be our official 12 playoff drivers. We have found our way to Music City to settle it all. Welcome, Goat Locker Racing fans, to the SAVE22 Friday Night Truck Series. Welcome back to the V-Speed booth. I'm Logan Threlkeld, and once again with me is Sky Streck and, of course, Eddie Smith behind the cameras. Sky, what a season. That's all I can really say. You know, we've got a lot to kind of look back and think on, but looking forward, we have an extremely tight battle at the cut line. Would you care to take a moment to run us down on the drivers who we need to keep a close watch on tonight?
Yeah, of course. So the drivers who have already won there, they're locked into the playoffs. That's Jake Ham, Jeremy Gardner, Patrick Drabick, Levi McCarty, and Timothy Peters. They're all good. The other drivers that should be locked in on points, barring something catastrophic, are Jake Ellingson, Mike Browning, and Craig Bontrager. It gets a little more interesting down towards that cut line where we decide the drivers who are making the playoffs here this season. Jamie Mullins, Michael McCarthy are both sitting pretty good at just about 20 above that cut line. Steve McDonald, Barrett Morton aren't quite safe yet. Jump up in here tonight.
So we've got that tight battle to keep an eye on. A couple other drivers that are just outside of that graphic on the screen. Behind Chance Taylor, Tyler Justice is in the picture. James Kaufman is in the picture. And not to mention, Sky, every single one of these drivers out here tonight, aside from one, can win this race and lock themselves into the playoff. And it's the final opportunity to do so. Nashville Superspeedway is where we find ourselves this week, and it's going to be a fantastic race. 14 degrees of banking in the corners at this 1.33 mile track. And it's notorious for settling debates, and ultimately it's just one of my favorite tracks. So very happy to see this being the regular season champion deciding factor here tonight. It's I'm excited, man.
This track is really good.
But while we're settling the qualifying, getting our grid going, let's take a moment here to send it to our Navy veteran Jared Ashley for our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And thank you once again, Jared Ashley, for our national anthem, Sky. It's been settled. Qualifying is over. It is time to roll through our grid here for the last race of the regular season. And setting our Jam Printings and Promotions Pole Award is David Duke in the 78 with a 29.961. Last week's winner at Dover, Jake Ham, will take the outside row with a 29.992. The second row will consist of Jeremy Gardner in the 42 with a 30 flat. Next to the 27 of Jacob Ellingson. Fifth will go to Mike Browning in the number 4 machine next to the 15 of Jamie Barkis in sixth. Seventh goes to George Jewell in the 36 next to the 07 of Patrick Drabick in eighth. And last but not least in our top 10, it's Craig Bontrager in the 49 next to the 22 of Michael McCarthy.
And running you through the rest of your field here, 11th will be Levi McCarty in the 24. Jamie Mullins on his outside in 12th in the 66. Stephen McDonald rolls off 13th in the 68. Brandon Wallace 14th in the 99. James Kaufman 15th in the 25 with Tyler Justice on the outside of row 6 in the 33 in 16th. James Goshen came so close to winning and getting in last race. He'll try to do it again tonight from 17th. Matt Knights in the 64 will be 18th. Your top 20 tonight will end with Timothy Peters, who will look to drive through the field from 19th. Chuck Phelps in the 75 and 20th. And your last two rows will be your last row will be Logan Sturgeon in 21st and Michael Seymour in 22nd.
And just for note, that Logan Sturgeon machine, the 26, is the only driver who unfortunately cannot win their way into the playoffs, just one race shy of the required amount of competitions in the season. Everybody else, though, who is not locked in, has an opportunity tonight to make it all up. So we've got an entire field here to pay attention to going through this race, and it's going to be a battle all throughout. Every single point matters tonight, no matter where you're at. Bonus points are at play. And it's going to be a big, big factor in how some of these drivers drive tonight. But the pace truck is off, coming around to that InVets restart zone. And it's going to be David Duke on the inside, Jake Ham on the outside, green flag in the air. And we're away for the last race of the regular season. David Duke finally gets clear of the 87 machine, taking the first lead lap of the race, but Jake Ham staying ever so close, but it's a battle all throughout behind, starting about 2 rows back here, finally starting to get a little bit more single-filed. We've got race cars side by side coming down the backstretch.
Jake Ham, winner of 4 races this year, looking to make it number 5 out of the 10 that we've had. He's already pushing for the lead. He'll run a little bit high there, but I think in the early stages of this race, the bottom is going to be the preferred line. That's where you see David Duke right now on both ends. Jake Ham's trying to make it work a little more up, and I think that will come into play as the race goes on, but on laps 3 and 4, I think the strategy is to run that bottom.
100 laps on the board for tonight. Let's see who takes the most important one at the very end. Jake Ham, as you mentioned, the only driver to win 4 races this season, and last season completely changing how we saw all of that play out. We had so many different winners in the regular season. Nearly the entire playoff field was locked in because of that. This season, not the same story.
No, we're going to have a lot of guys who are getting into the playoffs on points. Look at Browning back there in 6th. Had a great season. Hasn't been up there to get a win yet, but he's run really well, and he's put himself into the playoffs here just on points. Looking at your cut line right now, George Jewell still a little bit out of it. Steve McDonald holding that last spot in 12th. Jewell is running 7th, so he's doing all he can, but he's going to still need either to gain a couple spots or for Steve McDonald to lose a couple spots if he wants to push himself up into that final playoff position.
On your screen there in the bottom right-hand corner, we do have a live points outlook for us at that cut line battle. So keep your eye on that. You can tell who is in and who isn't.
And Barrett Morton came into this race as the last driver on the cut line, and he is not here tonight, which is going to really throw a wrench in those point standings heading into the playoffs. I do not believe he will make the playoffs because of not being at this race. So that is going to promote some of the cars that are further back. That's going to vault George Jewell in with a pretty good shot to try and take that final position. It's going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out coming down to the end of the season, especially since David Duke, leader of the race right now, is one of those winning your in cars.
On board right now with George Jewell. So sitting in a good spot up here in the top 10, currently sitting in 7th. So if the race ended right now, which we hope it doesn't, obviously, he would be in. However, we've got a lot more laps to go, and there's a whole slurry of drivers behind that could take this race, and that's what it's going to come down to. Who can finish where they need to and make this points bracket or get that elusive win. A little bit of side-by-side action now for the 24 and the 36. George Jewell high up on the outside. Levi McCarty on the inside there. That battle for 7th place right now, and another battle forming up behind between the 22 of McCarthy and the 66 of Mullins side-by-side. Coming out of turn number 2. Looks like the 66 should get the run. Not going to have enough to get clear of McCarthy here before turn 3 and 4.
We're going to see if that outside line can come in for some of these cars like Jamie Mullins back here, or if that bottom will continue to be the fastest way around. This track races pretty differently than almost anything else on iRacing. I think the closest thing you could compare it to is maybe a kind of a concrete version of Phoenix. It's a track that requires a lot of braking, unlike many mile-and-a-half tracks in these trucks, but you've got to strike a balance between getting on the brakes and getting off the corner early. Can be a really unique challenge in these cars, and I think it's a great track that provides really good racing. We're going to see some as this race goes down, and we got a little battle further up there. Levi McCarty working on Mike Browning for P6.
You can see that train start to form around the bottom line. Everybody except for Mike Browning on that yellow line, hugging it as tightly as possible. And now Browning will finally have an opportunity to utilize that as he gets around the 24 of McCarty. And now it's single filed out through the entire field. It's going to be all about who can get the draft, who can get the better drive off of the corner and attack the driver in front.
And Levi McCarty is really dicing through the field right now. He's picked up 4 spots in the early stages of this race, going from 11th to 7th, making quick work of the field. Same with another car further back, James Goshen. We mentioned he led a bunch of laps last week. He was a late caution away from having a great shot at winning the race. He needs a win to get into the playoffs, and he is trying to do it, up 5 spots also, 17th to 12th. Looking at the back bumper, Stephen McDonald, one of those drivers who's on the cut line.
So still single filed out. Looks like McCarty, he might be under fire from Browning here again. Browning on the outside, the 24 on the inside, just ahead of James Goshen here. Goshen with a good move to the inside now.
And he let it run up the track a little bit. That's going to really hurt his tires, and it's going to let McDonald get him right back on the inside. Sent it maybe a bit too hard. I think he's got to back it down and do a little bit more of a controlled move into the corner, because he washed up about a line or two there, and it really hurt him.
That's not what you want to do very early in the race like we are. It's going to come down to tire conservation and fuel strategy with this race here. So it's strategies could be all over the place at Nashville as well, Sky.
For sure, this is a track that very much you need to save the tires at. The concrete surface helps you run them a little cooler, but it's still easy to burn them up here like it is at a bigger 1.5 mile track. You got to make sure that you're not losing time on those tires, because if you do, I mean, this track's pretty tire sensitive. It might not chew up tires, but if you do chew them up, you're going to lose time pretty quickly.
And time is of the essence. The last race where everything is on the line. David Duke, he knows it. He wants this win bad. No wins on the season for Duke. If he can come away with this and make this playoff bracket, that will definitely shake things up going into this.
It will for sure, and if you're one of the cars on the bubble, specifically George Jewell currently showing as the first car out, you are Jake Ham's biggest fan right now, because if David Duke jumps everybody and wins this race, that puts you out of the playoffs. George Jewell needs Jake Ham to have a good race here. He's rooting for one of these drivers who's already won to win again, because it makes his life a lot easier. He's not going to have to fight with Steve McDonald for that last position.
See a little bit of shuffling there in the standings, back on the bottom right portion of your screen. George Jewell holding down that 13th position. Jim Kaufman has moved up a couple spots here, putting himself closer to contention. He's going to need a great finish here tonight if he wants to make that top 12. As it sits right now with Duke in the lead, the points are a little shuffled back, but ultimately, everything will sort itself out at the very end of this race. Right now, it doesn't look like Duke is under too much fire from the 87 of Ham. Could be that call of saving those tires as long as possible and put together a run. But Duke, however, was great in practice here. So it'd be hard to say, if anything, can really shake, how that drive is.
I think if you're Tyler Justice or you're Jim Kaufman, you're basically in a win-and-you're-in scenario right now. You would need to finish like second or third, and the cars who are in front of you, like George Drew up there, would need to basically come in last for you to make the playoffs. So your focus, if you're one of those cars in 14th, 15th, needs to be winning this race, because you can't do much else. You mentioned strategy earlier. I think we're going to see if it comes down to it. Some of these cars who are sitting just back of the bubble, like Tyler Justice and Jim Kaufman, try some strategy. Just try anything they can to get that win, because that's the only result that would matter for them tonight.
You're absolutely correct about that. And, some of these drivers out here, they still have playoff bonus points on the line. So it's not going to be just one of those things where they lay off. It's going to be a push to the front, because every point matters. And back behind, we've got the 07 of Dravic, who's made a move now. Got to the inside there of Jake Ellingson. Completes that pass going into turn number 1, up to the 4th spot now for the 07.
Drabek's moving through this field. He's one of our drivers that's already got a win this year. In fact, he did it at the very first race at Daytona. Last time we raced in the city of Nashville in Goat Locker for this truck series, Patrick Drabek won that one too. He knows how to win here. He'll be looking to get it done again tonight.
Already up 4 positions for Patrick Drabek. So a good drive to start this race out, not even a quarter of the way through just yet.
He's having a great start. Jake Ellingson's still looking at the bumper of that truck, but he hasn't been able to do it yet. This track definitely loosens up as the run goes on. You're going to see these drivers get a little more slidey, a little more patient on the throttle, because it can get easy to spin the car specifically out of the corners once this track gets some laps on it. So that's something to be careful of as we start to get around the 1/4 mark of this race and we get some laps on this tire run.
Didn't quite get a chance to talk to these drivers about the fuel run that we could potentially see. However, if I recall correctly from last season, it was right around that 40 to 50 area is where we'll see that fuel cell start to empty. Should start seeing some pit cycles happening around that midway point of the race. So it's going to come down to, who can make the right call. Do you want to go for the undercut? Do you want to go for the overcut? How is it going to play out for you? Shifting the weight around. Do you take 2 tires? Do you take 4 tires? And then, of course, that yellow flag, if that was to come out, completely changing some things up. A little bit of contact there at the wall coming out of turn number 3. Nothing doing there for Jake Ham, able to keep it back down on the track. You see Ham right now moving up a little bit to the outside line off of the apron that we see Duke running. So it's could be a factor there as well. Do you stay in the draft? Do you try to maximize how much fuel you're using versus the speed? There's a lot of factors that come down into the last race of the season, and it all is mental.
Well, what you're seeing from David Duke right now is basically exactly how you need to run this track. More so than other tracks, you need to be consistent here, and you need to be really, really smooth here. You have to get it right down to that apron, going down into the corner, and you have to take it off really smoothly on exit. Because if you don't, it can be really easy to overheat the tires. It can be really easy to get loose. This is a track that values like hitting your marks, being smooth, being consistent with it. And if you do that, you're going to be at the front here. That's what David Duke is doing. He's being very gentle on the car, easing it down in and out of every corner, and that's how you have to do it here. Look at how little he's turning that wheel until he gets about mid-corner. That's what the tire wear there is making him crank it a little harder. And yeah, he gets loose to pay for it, but you really want to be doing what he's doing on entry. Just very smooth entries into the corner. No real wheel input going down in there. You got to drive it with the throttle.
Sky, you said my favorite word, consistency, and that is key. David Duke putting on the display of exactly that. Looked like Ham was maybe going to look to the inside there down the back stretch, possibly just a little bit loose off corner exit. But ultimately stays behind the 78. David Duke will lead another one this time by. Not a whole lot going on towards the back of the field, though. We do have a couple battles starting to form here. The 22 and the 26 are side by side, and a little bit further behind them, Craig Bontrager is in the middle of a battle. But Duke still able to keep it ahead of Jake Ham. It's only a matter of time when Ham really starts to challenge. He's closed that gap back up nearly to the back bumper of Duke. We'll see if Ham has anything to say or if he is content with running right behind the 78 for the time being, peeking to the outside there. A little bit of extra help from the clean air. He's certainly not been on the back bumper enough to worry about temperatures at all.
Well, I think what he's trying to do when he enters a little higher there is he's trying to build up a little more speed on exit. He enters high and then kind of drops it down into the corner. Nearly a little bit of contact there, but they both keep it steady. If he can kind of arc that in where he enters high, drops down low, then all he needs is one small mistake from David Duke, and he will have the run up the inside, and that will get him the spot. But he needs to be right behind that 78 car to make that move work. I think if he isn't right on that guy's bumper, he's going to want to lay it back a little bit like he's doing right now and just follow that 78 around.
And they were side by side through turns 1 and 2. The 24 McCarty and Jake Ellingson on the inside. Ellingson back to the inside here through 3 and 4. But McCarty's going to get the run, keeping it high up. Oh, in contact with the wall for the 24. That'll slow him up just a touch. Will it be enough for Ellingson to make a better challenge this time through 1 and 2? We'll keep an eye right here. And Ellingson getting a better drive through the middle section of the corner, but coming off corner exit, it's going to be all the speed on the top line. That's going to vault the 24 back in front, but only by about half a truck length. And a challenge now for the lead from Ham. He's to the inside of Duke. Duke high up on the racetrack. It's going to be side by side. Duke with the advantage here coming across the start-finish line. He'll get another lap led and back in front of the 87 now.
This track's got a long front straightaway. It's longer than the back straightaway, and that means if you're on the outside out of 4, you get a little bit more of a run compared to if you were on the outside out of 2. That's what helped David Duke get that spot there. But now that Jake Ham knows he can take it side by side, he's going to keep going for it. He'll get the run down the back straightaway and pull a slide job coming out of 4. He'll keep it straight. He'll take the lead. New leader, Jake Ham, lap 33.
And keep an eye behind. Look at that 42 charging up. That's Jeremy Gardner, last season's champion. He's inserted himself into the equation now. He'll be challenging for one of these top 2 positions here momentarily. Then it's a little bit further back to the 07 of Drabick. As you had mentioned, Drabick winning last season's race at Nashville. He knows how to drive this course, and it's only a matter of time before we see the 07 doing the same as Jeremy Gardner.
Jeremy Gardner would very much like another win to help him out going into the playoffs. His only win earlier this year was at 1.5 miles in Kansas. This track isn't the same as Kansas, but it's not too far off in length, so he's hoping he can make what worked there stick a little bit here. Jake Ham's trying to pull away, but David Duke isn't letting it go just yet. However, with Jeremy Gardner continuing to encroach, he might fall back to 3rd.
So Duke finally starting to fall off here around that 30 lap mark. Jake Ham was most certainly saving tires for this challenge later in this run. It's going to be a matter of if Ham can keep Duke at bay going through all of this. It's going to be a challenge, but Duke starting to lose some pace off of the back end of the 87. Jeremy Gardner is now looking to the inside here. Duke shuts the door. Gardner holds his line. Wasn't fazed by it whatsoever. Now Gardner to the inside here for second place.
And as Gardner takes second away from Duke for now, check out those point standings on the bottom right, because David Duke, losing the lead, has dropped out of the playoffs. That's going to promote George Jewell into 12th. And as David Duke gets passed almost for good this time by Gardner, that is going to put him 13 points out, back in 13th. George Jewell looking good right now as David Duke has used up those tires and is starting to fall.
It's only a matter of time now as that gap has started to close for the 07 up here to the top 3 positions. He's been bouncing around that 0.8, 0.9 second range. Now he's within that 0.7 in the drive through the corners here. As you can see, Drabick able to send it in a little bit deeper, slows it up midway through the corner, kind of starts to lose those top 3 on corner exit. Wasn't the best example of a corner here for the 07. See how he does here through 1 and 2. Now there it is, a lot more smooth here. Maybe just a little bit too deep there in 3 and 4 last time by.
One thing you'll notice if you're looking at the lap times is that they are really starting to fall off. Oh, big move for Drabick into that corner. He got right up to the back end of David Duke. That was huge out of that 07 car. The lap times, though, are starting to fall off these drivers at the start of the run.
Oh, we've got contact further back. The 22 is around.
Hard into the wall.
There, Sky.
No, you're good. Hard into the wall goes one of our bubble drivers, Michael McCarthy. Looking right now like he'll still be in either way, but if George Jewell gets a couple more spots, he could be in trouble.
I'm not too sure who that got into there. I think maybe the 46 of Peters, possibly, maybe the 99 there. We've got a bunch of cars in the equation here. There's the 25 right behind. Coming down the backstretch here, looks like it's going to be possibly the 46. And, just came way down the track. So no ill intent there, just trying to go for a position, or an opening rather, that wasn't quite there. Back one more time here on the replay. Enters way high and tries to cut it all the way down to the apron line to get in behind the 99. Just makes contact with the front right there of Timothy Peters. Spins it around immediately. Peters gets clobbered from behind, sends the 46 sideways. He looks like he was able to collect it back up.
Yeah, that's just kind of self-inflicted right there for Michael McCarthy, and that is gonna rip off his rear bumper, give him some major damage. Cars are gonna make it down the pits right now. I was saying the fall off was about 1.3 seconds from where they started this stint after 40 laps, but it won't matter anymore because everyone is gonna get to put fresh tires on it. The whole field is down. We'll see where they come out.
And one thing I had mentioned earlier there, the fuel saving strategy might come into play here a lot more than what we originally thought. We've got, by the time that we come back, green should be around that 55 lap mark. That could be pushing it on the fuel cell here. So keep an eye on that. We might see some trucks come around that start finish line at the end of this race without power.
That would certainly be interesting to see. Leading everybody out of the pits will be Jake Ham in the 87, but we've got some shuffling a little further back. Jeremy Gardner out P2. Drabic 3. David Duke 4. George Jewell 5. Coming out of that pit lane. While drivers were pitting and we're getting them all lined back up under caution, we want to tell you about one of our partners here at Goat Locker Racing. That'll be Lincoln Tech. Lincoln's mission is to provide superior education and training to their students for in-demand careers in a supportive, accessible learning environment, transforming students' lives and adding value to their communities. They're one of the largest automotive technology schools in the U.S. with 23 campuses. They're the title sponsor of the Spring Series, and they've always been a very large partner of Goat Locker Racing, so we'd like to thank Lincoln Tech for everything they do for us here in this series. Lights on the pace car are going to be off soon, and we are getting ready to go in here in just a second.
So a little bit of a switch up there coming out of the pits. Drabic was able to pick up that position from the 78 of Duke. So Duke will start on the outside line of row 2 this time. He was really trying to utilize that bottom line there. So will Duke be able to make that adjustment here on this restart and run that high line? He got the bottom line there on the initial start after setting the pole on the night. So it's going to be a big switch up here for the 78. We'll see how he handles it. Mike Browning here in 5th on this restart. George Jewell will start on the outside. Mullins on the inside here. There's quite a bit of potential here for an interesting restart, Sky.
I think there is for sure. There are going to be some guys out here who are really looking to move up their position. Just look at George Jewell. He is going to be going for it from 3rd on the inside. Pace car's off. Green flag is getting ready to drop. We're back green, long lap 44.
That was a big jump from the outside line there. Jake Ham immediately takes control. Can he get down in front of the 42? He's got room to do so, and he does. Now David Duke hung out to dry on the outside. Looks like there might be a gap here to get in front of... Yes, he does get in front of the 07 of Drabic, so he gets that position back. That outside line worked for the 78 on that restart. And look at Jake Ham running away with it right now. That was a big restart.
He did. He got a great restart. He's looking to win his 5th of 10 races this year. But a little further back, George Jewell is trying to improve his position. He doesn't know if David Duke could still pull off a win in this race or if the car outside of him, Mike Browning, could pull off a win in this race. He'll fall back to 6th, but he's now under threat from James Goshen in the 85, who started out towards the back of the field and has wheeled it now up to P6. That's a driver that we almost saw jump into the playoffs with a win last week. He's going to try again here at Nashville, looking for a top 5.
Showing the pace here tonight early. James Goshen up 11 positions on the night. The 85, he's ready to go to the playoffs. Can he make it up to the front and insert himself into the format? Only a matter of time will tell. Started back in 17th position on the night. It has been a drive for the 85 as he makes contact with the wall out of turn number 4. That's going to give the 36 a run around the outside, side by side across the front stretch into turn number 1. Goshen nearly came up into the 36. George Jewell, James Goshen able to keep it off each other here. Jewell's going to get the run down the backstretch back in front of the 85 now.
And I don't think that's the first time that car has hit the wall, which is really going to hurt him. Oh, we got Michael McCarthy in front of everybody there. He's a couple laps down. He gets out of the way just in time. We're getting close to kind of a turning point in this race for Michael McCarthy that he might need to be wary of, which is if George Jewell finishes 4th or above, that would put Michael McCarthy as the last car in the playoffs, which right now would still get him in. But if David Duke jumps Gardner and Ham and manages to win this race, that would put McCarthy on the outside looking in. So those are the main 3 that we're watching at the moment. One of those cars, McCarthy, Jewell, and Duke, is going to be on the outside after this.
One thing to consider as well, potential points deduction implications. So McCarthy being wrapped up in that one caution that we've had, that could cost him. Look at this. It's the 07 challenging now for that 3rd position once more. Right behind is the Mike Browning number 4 as well.
Top 5
now with Drabic. We'll see if he can do anything here. Looks like he was trying to go for an outside in type of maneuver here. Couldn't quite get the momentum that he needed coming back down to that bottom line.
Top 5 starting to pull away a little bit from the cars behind him. A gap opening up to George Jewell back there in 6th. And then a gap is opening up from that car to Goshen and Mullins back there, 7th and 8th. Another car you might need to keep an eye on here.
More contact. We've got the 68 spinning through the tri-oval. Second yellow flag is out in a big hit.
I was about to say the one car you might need to keep an eye on the points bubble is Steve McDonald, because he was only 1 point ahead of McCarthy, and if anything went wrong for him, he was going to drop out, and there he goes. That's going to put him 5 points behind George Jewell. That puts George Jewell in, but now he's the last car in after that spin, and he's at threat of missing the playoffs.
That car that made the contact afterwards, I believe, was the 46 of Timothy Peters, once again wrapped up in another incident. Not quite at fault. Looks like that's the 75 of Chuck Feltz making contact there with Steve McDonald. There's the big hit afterwards. That was indeed the 46. He ended up picking up that meatball flag and an early exit here for TJ Peters on the night. Not what you want to see. A race car coming up the track when you're coming across the tri-oval at nearly 180 mile an hour or so.
No, that'll be a race ender for the 46, but the one good news for that car is that he's already got a win this season. He locked himself into the playoffs a couple weeks ago, and that is going to help him out. A lot of drivers making the move down pit road here, but not everybody. The strategy coming into play.
A bold strategy call for a couple of the drivers electing to stay out. Jake Ham, Mike Browning, the 85 of James Goshen, the 27, Jake Ellingson. We got James Kaufman all electing to stay out, not taking fuel this time by. They think they can make it. Everybody else going to come down. Looks like we've got right sides up on multiple drivers. And will the left side? Yes, the left side is going to go up as well. Certainly going to top off with fuel as well. Let's see who wins this race off of pit road. And there it is. I believe Jeremy Gardner is going to get that first spot out of everybody that pit.
So this is really interesting for those cars that stayed out. Ham is already in on wins. Mike Browning also locked in on points. But then a little further back, you've got James Goshen in the 85. and then you've got Kaufman back there in the 25. Those are 2 cars that are win and get in. This is part of a strategy to put them closer to the front. James Kaufman was running all the way back, kind of around 15th. He needed to do something. This is that something.
It most certainly is. But while we've got a moment, take another opportunity to say thanks to one of our partners here at Goat Locker Racing. That'll be SAVE22, our title sponsor here on Friday nights. SAVE22 is a 501c3 organization dedicated to preventing suicide among veterans, active duty personnel, and first responders. Our unwavering mission extends to 4 critical pillars: shield, assist, volunteer, and educate, otherwise known as SAVE. We'd like to thank SAVE22 for sponsoring our Friday nights here, and it's been a fantastic season to do so. A lot of drivers coming into this race with a lot on the line. Big swerves from the 42, trying to get those fresh tires warmed up so he can make a charge back up to the front on this restart. He's got quite a few fast drivers ahead of him to work around before he gets there, though.
He does. Pace cars getting ready to pull off here in just a second. We're going to see, will these new tires put these drivers like David Duke back up to the front of the field, or will the alternate strategy prevail?
It's all going to come down to this call right here, Sky. I feel like this is going to have the biggest impact on the race. It's going to be Jake Ham on the outside, Mike Browning on the inside. Pace truck is off into the InVets restart zone we go. Green flag in the air. Ham on the gas pedal, and another big jump from the outside on the 87. That's going to give Jake Ellingson an opportunity here to challenge for second. Mike Browning on the bottom, getting a little bit of a bump here from Goshen. Side by side through 1 and 2. Ellingson on the outside. He should get a good run here. And there it is. Gets right in front of the 4 machine. Ellingson with the best spot that we've seen him in so far tonight.
He's going to be looking for that win. That is another driver that does not have a win, but is locked in on points. He would not jump anyone that's further back.
25. Contact to the left rear. He goes through the grass, but no caution.
Well, there will be almost some caution there. That will be devastating for him because he's on those older tires, and now he's at the back anyway, and he needs a win to get in. That is the worst case scenario right now for James Kaufman in that 25. We're going to see what happened to him coming out of 4. Oh, it's a very similar incident to what we saw on that last caution, just coming together between him and the 42 of James Gardner sends him through the grass.
And Jeremy Gardner, we saw, there's that rejoin. That was so close to collecting the 68 of McDonald again. We saw, a few laps ago where Jeremy Gardner stood his ground coming across the tri-oval. And it didn't seem to faze him that David Duke went right across the nose, ever so close. Looks like Duke a little bit loose there through 3 and 4. Some contact made with the wall there. I believe that was the 24 of McCarty. McCarty's going to lose a spot here to Bontrager, now Mullins. David Duke finds himself battling to try to get back to the front. Currently sitting 7th after leading a whole lot of laps here to start this race. I believe in the 30s.
George Jewell back to being that last car in after making that pit stop, going a couple spots back to 11th. Steve McDonald put himself back in 11th, but right now those cars are looking at Duke in 7th and Goshen in 6th as the 2 highest drivers out of the playoffs who are going to look to move their way in with a win.
Jeremy Gardner, Patrick Drabick, James Goshen, they were all battling there for a few laps side by side. It seemed like Drabick was kind of stuck right behind, but finally is able to get around the 85 machine. All over the back bumper of Gardner now for 4th. And look right behind. There's David Duke. He's setting up for a move to the inside here. He does it side by side now with Goshen. Will he get the drive off that he needs to collect that position? Goshen a little loose on the high side there.
Oh, there was a pretty big hit to the wall from Michael Seymour. He went head on into the fence a couple laps ago. going through the grass off of an incident that was ahead of him between James Kaufman and Michael McCarthy. I don't know if we can get back to that, but that's 3 cars with pretty heavy damage towards the back of the field.
Didn't quite catch that for the first time we saw that, but here we go again. David Duke on the inside of Goshen, and now we've got another one trying to join the mix here. Craig Bontrager trying to follow Duke on that bottom line. He's waiting for an opportunity to get around some of these trucks, work that 49 up through the field here. Bontrager is good on points going into the playoffs. Here we go, back on that replay here for Michael Seymour, the 37. Take a look here. Oh, okay. So we had contact between, that was the 22. Is that the 25 there in front? The 25 just got loose. Man, that was a tough one to miss.
Yeah, there was a piece of car on the track in the middle of turn 2, which is how I realized something happened, and then I realized it was a piece of his fender there coming off from hitting the wall.
2 big hits on that right front there for Seymour. That's going to be a hard one to recover from. Might be a race ender as well, and it looks like it was. Michael Seymour with an early exit on the night following Timothy Peters.
Well, the real drama in that is going to be James Kaufman, who just pulled that strategy to try to get out in front. He's out of the race on that too, so that is going to end his chances of getting into the playoffs, and it's going to hurt Michael McCarthy, as he was already several laps down. He's got even more damage on that car now from that accident. He is running 3 down, and if Jewell and McDonald move up, he'll be in trouble. Here comes David Duke trying to move up to put those cars in trouble. He's in 5th.
It's Mike Browning falling out of the top 5 now. Duke back in the top 5, but there's quite the gap ahead before we see him challenging once more. Duke has about 3/4 of a second now before he gets to the back bumper of the 07. But the top 4 all separated by about a half a second right now from 1st to 4th.
And the race is already starting to wind down. We're 2/3 of the way through this race here. Laps go quick at Nashville. Patrick Drabick trying to move himself up into the top 3 behind Gardner and Ellingson behind. Both cars still tailing Jake Ham. That 87 hasn't gotten away, and he won't get away from Gardner, who's now sending a big lunge on Ellingson to try to get P2. We'll stay side by side down the back straightaway. Ellingson doesn't have the run he'd need on the top. Gardner setting his sights on Jake Ham for the lead.
Ellingson locked in on points coming into the race, but certainly would like to pick up his first win of the season to go into the playoffs with a little extra. Bonus points on the line for the 27. Our top 3 right now all have wins on the season. So it's just bragging rights at this point if one of these 3 take home the win. David Duke, he's closing that gap now within a second of our leader.
Still a tight battle up here, and it's getting even tighter as these cars continue to run together. That 42 is right on the bumper of that 87 car. He's going to take a lunge down to the inside. Jeremy Gardner, working on those newer tires, is going to try to take the lead away from Jake Ham, and following him through on the bottom is going to be Patrick Drabick in the 07. And if you're one of those cars that's sitting on the bubble, don't look now. Here comes David Duke for 4th behind this. New tires are really making time on the bottom.
What Gardner has in his favor now, having Drabick and Ham behind him, is going to separate and cause a challenge now for Duke to make his way back up to the front. Drabick and Ham, both very, very tough to pass. They know how to make the truck just as wide as the track and really make you make a move that you might not be comfortable with.
No, you can't force one here. This is the track that we mentioned earlier is all about consistency and keeping it smooth. The more you start to drive in a panic, the worse off you get here at Nashville. And with 30 to go, these drivers are going to need to keep that in mind, because if you're trying to force moves, it will wear out your tires. And if you're one of these guys like Jake Ham who did not pit for tires on that last stop, maybe found yourself on the bad strategy call, you're going to need every amount of rubber you can get to keep yourself close to Gardner and Drabick, who are pulling away in the top 2.
But if you're in the driver's seat of the 78, you know that you need a win to make the playoffs. You've got to drive it to the best of your ability. Near contact right behind. Ellingson loses another position here to the 49 of Bontrager. Bontrager was able to follow Duke on that bottom line. Ellingson back to the 6th position now.
Bontrager, another one of those drivers trying to move his way up through the field after taking new tires. Jacob Ellingson is on the old ones, and that's part of why he's been hurting back there. Bontrager is a car that came into this race about 15 above the cut line. He's ran well today. I'd say he's pretty much locked in on points at this point, but he still wants a good finish just to end the regular season on a high note and build a little bit of momentum heading into next week. And if he can get a win, it'd give him some bonus points too, which would make it even sweeter.
And bonus points are just going to be so big going into this. We have so many drivers that have multiple wins. You know, we've got some with the advantage, some that are a little bit further back. The guys that don't have the win, they'll be starting at the tail end of the playoff bracket. It's a big deal to take home the last win of the season, whether or not you are locked in on wins. It can be a game changer for some of these drivers here tonight.
Yeah, and the battle for the win right now is between two drivers who've both got one win this year. Gardner got it done week 3 at Kansas. Patrick Drabick in the opener at Daytona. These are two cars that could really use those bonus points for getting a win tonight, and they're going to fight to get them. Meanwhile, back in 3rd, David Duke. Winning your in drivers trying to get it done, and there's almost a caution. Little bit of contact between Ham and Bontrager behind, but David Duke is clear of that. He'll put his sights on those top 2. He's a while back, but he's going to do everything he can to get them. Car around in the back.
Sideways at the back. That's the 27 of Ellingson. Caution is out. Lap 75. That is not what you want to see if you're Patrick Drabick or Jeremy Gardner.
No, because now I think everybody's going to come down and put fresh tires on it unless you're trying to do something desperate. This is Jacob Ellingson. He's got George Jewell on the inside of that 36 car, and that was a interesting one. Maybe a little bit of contact, a little bit of netco, but the 27 just went straight.
Yeah, it almost looked like he lost the steering. There's that initial issue there with Ham and Bontrager in front. And what happens here? Maybe
that looked like an overcorrect.
Yeah, it looked a lot like an overcorrection there for the 27 machine. Just maybe thought that rear end was starting to step out a little bit more than what it actually was. Tried to catch it, but you know, it's an odd situation where you catch it a little too early.
Yeah, he could have kept his foot in it pretty good there. It was almost like he was anticipating some kind of spin or some kind of big loose moment that didn't end up actually happening and just kind of put it straight in the wall. I have to imagine everyone is going to come down here. That's a lap car staying out at the back. Everyone else is going to come down and put fresh rubber on it with 24 to go, and it'll be a sprint to the finish.
Take a look here at what the strategy might be. So they're about to turn into their pit stalls. The first one goes in. Drabick in. Gardner in. Right sides go up. Certainly the left sides will too. Who's going to win the battle off pit road this time? And keep an eye here. There goes Drabick. Here comes Gardner side by side. Gardner with the advantage. He'll stay in front of the 07. Couple drivers going to swap positions here.
Yeah, but on the whole, it looks like a pretty similar order to how we came in. Logan Sturgeon is going to jump around to the lead of this race here. I do not believe this car is eligible for the playoffs. Correct me if I am wrong here, but I think he has not shown up to the required number of races to where a win would get him in.
If I read the rules correctly, he is one shy of being able to pull this off with a win. The 26, that big fish barbecue sauce. Logan Sturgeon. He made a call here, but I don't know if everybody's going to be happy with it. He's going to remain out here on the old tires starting this restart here. Drabek's going to be behind and certainly not what he wants to see in front of him.
No, but hey, speaking of Patrick Drabek, want to give a little shout out here to his sponsor, Jam Printing and Promotions. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits, with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They've been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning. They're local and veteran certified, and when they do well, they do good in the community. So we'd like to thank Jam Printing and Promotions for all they do for Goat Locker Racing, and they're having a pretty good run right now. Their driver's in third, trying to win this race.
He certainly is, and has a great shot of doing so. If he can get around the 26 of Sturgeon safely on this restart, the 07 will certainly be challenging Gardner once more. But take a look to his outside. David Duke back up here in contention on this restart. This is what you want to see if you're the 78. Just to go along with that, too, I have to say, top-notch quality from the Jam Printing and Promotions team. That hoodie that we've picked up here is fantastic. I wear it way too often. But to the InVets restart zone we go. Sturgeon will take the green flag and gets a good jump here. Maybe Drabek laying off a little bit, making sure that the 26 was able to keep the tires underneath the rear end. Side by side now with Gardner. Sturgeon's going to get away here by about 0.2 of a second, but they're going to reel him in quickly. Sturgeon electing to stay low down the backstretch. That's going to give Gardner a good run around the outside. Drabek now falls in behind Gardner, looking to take the outside here. The 26, the 87 of Ham back in the picture as well. David Duke falls back to 6th on that restart. Greg Bontrager to his outside right now.
Yeah, the Big Fish barbecue car got caught pretty quickly there by everyone behind him. 25 lap old tires is a really big difference here. We've seen the fall off be pretty substantial this race. I think Logan Sturgeon tried it, but we'll see how it works out for him. I don't think it's going to work out too hot for him, though, over these next few laps.
Certainly won't, as we saw there. Patrick Drabek was a little bit loose on the exit of 2. Jake Ham gets on the wall on the exit of 4. And they're side by side across the tri-oval. Going to be side by side through 1 and 2 again. Drabek on the inside here. Who's going to get the drive off? Jeremy Gardner loving what he's seeing in the rearview mirror. Drabek runs Ham all the way up the track. Contact in the back. We've got to shuffle around. It's the 26 in the wall. He keeps it going, though. Green flag will stay out. He's going to lose all that ground that he thought he had.
No, and someone's going to go pretty far to the back here, which is really going to hurt him. It was a big, big drive through the infield for Levi McCarty, who's going to lose a ton of spots on that contact between Sturgeon and David Duke. He was our primary win and get in contender, and he's not going to be in that position anymore because he's fallen back to 9th. Great news on that battle there for George Jewell, who's now in 7th and is 11 points to the good.
David Duke, he fell back to 6th on that restart. Now back to the 9th position. It's going to be the drive of a lifetime if Duke wants to win this race. 3 very fast trucks leading it right now. Gardner, Ham, Drabek, Bontrager in tow. Jamie Mullins behind. Mullins, another driver that could really benefit from a win here tonight. We'll see how that plays out for the 66. Justice running in 6th right now in the 33 machine. George Jewell in 7th. Jamie Barkas in the 15 running 8th.
I believe Tyler Justice back there in 6th would be our first car who would need a win to get in tonight. I think Mullins and Bontrager are both in on points. The top 3 all have wins. So the focus is going to be on Tyler Justice, who's ran a pretty good race. He's came from 16th up to 6th. He's the only car up here that's come from outside the top 15 cars tonight. Been pretty steady, pretty consistent. Haven't seen him in the wall or haven't seen him in any other cars tonight. He's just been running a smooth race. He'll get a good result, which maybe if it was earlier in the season, he'd be happy with. But tonight, when you need a win to get in, don't think he's going to be quite as happy about it.
Certainly not, but there's always next season if you can't. That's the one great thing here. You always know there's another one right around the corner. Jeremy Gardner knew it, and he won last season, looking to make it back-to-back here. We'll see, as he's already locked in. This bonus point could mean quite a bit for the 42 machine going through the rest of the playoff format.
Ham's looking on the outside, maybe trying to do a little bit of what he did earlier. Use that top line to send it down to the bottom and get himself a better exit off the corner. We'll see if he does that here on Gardner. No, he'll stay high through the whole corner. It'll give him a little bit of a run off, but not too much for now. He'll take a peek to the inside going down to 1.
Jeremy Gardner right now is defending that bottom line as best as he possibly can. He does not want to let Jake Ham to the inside of the 42 right now. A little bit of separation will give him some breathing room. However, that draft, it's not too much, but it's enough to get you back to the back bumper whenever you need to. Patrick Drabick's going to back the corner down quite a bit here, see if he can get a good run off. Doesn't quite look like he's going to get the run that he wants, but Jeremy Gardner taking it high around the tri-oval that time. That gap will close the back bumper with Ham. He's right there. He falls back to about 0.2 of a second, but whenever it comes to the straightaways, Ham's able to close that gap right back to 1/10 or less.
And we're running out of time here for Jake Ham to make this move. He's in the wall a little bit there, and that is going to hurt him as we hit 12 laps to go this time around. Gardner's still got the lead up there in first, but it's Jake Ham, Patrick Drabick hounding him down second and third. They've got a pretty big gap to Craig Bontrager behind him and Jamie Mullins, a couple tenths behind him as well. Your top 5, all drivers who are in the playoffs here and all drivers who should be locked in for the next race.
Well, it is currently single file throughout the entire field. You have to wonder, will Ham or Drabick get the run that they want to catch back up to Gardner and make this a 3-horse race to the finish line? Or are they going to be content with letting Gardner getting a second win? Certainly not. It is way too competitive here on Friday nights to even consider that as an option. Right now, Gardner's got all the momentum that he could ask for, separating himself from Ham and Drabick right now, nearly up to a half second. Could it be Ham saving these tires for the last 10 laps? Could it be Gardner pushing a little bit too hard? It's all going to come down to the very end.
I feel like we've seen Jeremy Gardner up on the podium most weeks this season, but we've only seen him get up to the top step of it once. This would be a great opportunity for him to get that second win, put himself in a better position in the playoffs, and David Duke's day goes from bad to worse. That car is hard into the outside wall. He will pull it into the pits, and David Duke's playoff chances are over.
Steering linkage possibly broken from that hit there on the 78. Let's take a look at what happens here following the 99 of Brandon Wallace into turn. Oh, man, just gets sent by the 22 there into turn number 3 and a hard hit to the outside wall. That right front, I'm going to have to say that steering linkage was broken, or at least a toe link.
And that 22 car was several laps down. He still is several laps down. He's in 17th right now. We're going to see this on board here from the 22, but this was an interesting moment to say the least.
Oh,
yeah, he
like,
kind of just sends it into the back of him there.
It kind of looked like Duke maybe, got off the throttle a little bit earlier than he was expecting, but it's you got to be ready for that. Ultimately, the 22 McCarthy there just a little bit too fast in the corner to be behind the 78. But back to the live action we go. Jeremy Gardner has extended that lead to 3/4 of a second, looking to make it a 1-second gap here over Ham and Drabick. And we're going to come around here to start lap 95. Will either one of these drivers have enough to catch back up? Craig Bontrager looking to take away a podium position from one of these drivers. Will he have enough in the 49 machine to make it to a third or second place finish.
Yeah, this is one of Bontrager's best runs of the season. This would really give him some momentum going into the playoffs in 2 weeks here. He came into this race a couple points ahead of the cut line. He should finish right around 8th or 9th out of the 12 cars who are making it into the playoffs this season. But a good finish here would set him up nicely looking ahead towards Richmond, and he certainly wants to get any position he can, looking at the back of Drabic and Jake Ham up here, 2nd and 3rd.
5 to go, Sky, and it is all about the 42 of Jeremy Gardner, nearly 1 second ahead of Jake Ham and Patrick Drabic. Will he be able to hold this pace and make it all the way to that checkered flag? This time by, we've got 4 more laps to figure it out.
We do. And Ham is just falling back. Gardner is putting on a clinic right now as that 42 car has just continued to torch these guys behind him. It's a 1 second gap that's opened up back to Jake Ham. The main battle right here is looking like it's going to be for 2nd and 3rd. Jake Ham, Patrick Drabic, Craig Bontrager, and hey, don't really count out Jamie Mullins just yet, are all running really tight here for 2nd through 5th. They're going to be the ones who are trying to make passes, but as we cross for 3 to go, Jeremy Gardner on cruise control.
Cruise control indeed for the 42 machine. The battle heating up here for 2nd. Drabic getting back to the back bumper now of Ham. Down into turn 3. Drabic will take the option of trying to cut that from the outside line to the bottom, trying to get that run through the corner. Ends up losing some time now to Jake Ham, on board with Patrick Drabic for one of these final laps here.
He's going to do all he can. You can see how focused he is on that in-car. With a lap and a half to go, he is still only about a 10th back of that 87 car. Battle for 4th going on too. Bontrager's falling off. That's let Jamie Mullins pull his car into P4. But looking up front, it's the white flag. 1 second gap for Jeremy Gardner.
Jeremy Gardner, all he needs is 4 more corners here without an issue. He makes it through 1. He makes it through 2. Down the back stretch, and victory is in sight for the 42. In the last race of the regular season, into turn number 3 he goes. And coming around to turn number 4, Gardner with a checkered flag in sight will take home the final chance here for anybody else to make the playoffs. Jeremy Gardner wins Nashville with 30 laps led.
Great race for him. He didn't lead a lot of laps early, but he came on when it mattered the most. Dominated the final stint of that race, and that will get him in the playoffs. And provisionally here, your bubble is going to look like that on the bottom right. Jamie Mullins, Michael McCarthy, Steve McDonald, George Jewell taking the last couple spots in, with Tyler Justice, James Goshen, and Jim Kaufman falling just short.
And the 42 sends it sideways back to that checkered line. There you have it, Jeremy Gardner with his 2nd win on the season. 42 waiting for him to light up those rear tires, possibly celebrating a little bit harder than we think behind the scenes here. Just electing to stay stationary here. Well, if we're not going to have a celebration, we might as well send it to a quick commercial break. Then we'll be right back with our post-race coverage and interviews with our top 3 finishers. Stick around. We'll be right back in a few minutes.
thriving job market and low cost of living, plus a wide range of veteran benefits, make Indiana the perfect place for veterans of the United States military to call home. InVets can help you find that home. We're an organization started by veterans to help former service members transition to civilian life in our state. InVets can help you find the community with the career opportunities, housing, schools, and amenities that fit your lifestyle. To learn more about InVets, visit us at invets.org today.
And we're back here live in Music City. Finally, a celebration burnout here from our race winner, Jeremy Gardner. And he must have gotten up and walked away in celebration, came back and remembered he has to lay down some rubber for the fans. But right into our results here on the night. 3 cautions on the night with only 4 lead changes. Jeremy Gardner being the last one to get ahead of the pack here, taking home the win after starting in 3rd. Jake Ham starts in 2nd, finishes right where he's at, the 87, with another podium on the season. Patrick Drabick will take home the 3rd finishing position with another podium for himself in that Jam Printing and Promotion 07. Jamie Mullins will take the 4th position here on the night, followed up by Craig Bontrager with a solid season coming out of the 49. Jamie Barkas in the 15 will take 6th, followed up by the 36 of George Jewell. Then it's the 33 of Tyler Justice in 8th on the night. Mike Browning makes a top 10 with the 4 machine, and last but not least, the 85 of James Goshen in 10th.
And rounding out your field tonight, 11th place in the 99 machine is going to be Brandon Wallace. Levi McCarty in the 24 in 12th. Stephen McDonald in the 13, and the 68 in 13th. Chuck Phelps in the 75, P14. Matt Knight's 15th in the 64. Michael McCarthy, 2 down, 20 in the 22 in 16th. David Duke had a great shot tonight, but it ended in the wall. 78 car finishes P17. James Kaufman, 18th. Logan Sturgeon, 19th. Jacob Ellingson, 20th. Michael Seymour, 21st. And Timothy Peters, 22. All did not finish the race tonight.
So a couple drivers with early exits on the night. But Sky, it's time to get right into our post-race interviews. And I'm standing by with our winner, Jeremy Gardner. Jeremy, 2nd win on the season, the last race to do so in the regular season. What are you feeling right now? It took you quite a while to come back for that post-race burnout.
Yeah, we had to go to a bathroom break on that one.
I figured it was celebration.
Both of them. I had to go grab me another beer dog.
I understand that. But run me through it, man. What are you feeling right now? How well does this set you up for our playoffs here in 2 weeks?
Man, I'm ready for the playoffs. Honestly, tonight, I still drove out of a little bit of frustration from Wednesday, man. I played the strategy out on Wednesday, led a lot of laps here, and had some caution screw me there at the end. But man, I had to redeem myself tonight. That was a fun race. I knew if I just played it patient right there, I could make something happen there at the end, and thankfully I did. Those cautions scared me a little bit. Not gonna lie, because that was my last set of tires right there. So
that leads me into the next question of how the cautions affected your strategy. You know, you took your last set of tires there on that last caution, but ultimately it played off. You were able to get out to a 1 second lead over 2nd place, and then of course a little over a 1.5 seconds over 3rd place. So that last set of tires being the magic set that you needed here to finish this in 1st.
yeah, I mean, thankfully that was the last caution we had. I heard some guys in Discord go, "Oh no, he's spinning, he's sideways," and I was like, "Oh no, you got to be kidding me right now." But thankfully, no caution flew. I was honestly just driving my own pace up front. Once I got, I think, Jake to a 2nd, I was already just cruising it. I didn't want to make no mistakes. I don't want to hit the apron. I don't want to get loose. I just knew if I could stay in clean air, I had that in the bag. So I had pretty good consistency tonight for once. So definitely paid off there.
It absolutely did. We saw you take home the championship in last season, season number 8. What can we expect from the 42 going through the playoffs of season number 9?
Oh, y'all better be ready. 42 is coming for that championship again. Let's make it two years in a row.
Back-to-back seasons is what Jeremy Gardner's looking for. Jeremy, you started 3rd on the night, led 30 laps, and of course, the most important one, Is there anybody you'd like to say thanks to for taking home the last win of the regular season?
Yes, sir. Pat and Jamie, GLR. Like I say every single week, I'm going to say it every single week. Appreciate the hell out of them guys, man. I appreciate everything they do for the league. Appreciate everything they do for the veteran community. Lincoln Tech, SAVE22, one of my sponsors and one of the sponsors for the series. So I appreciate SAVE22 for putting on this series. Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, iRacing, and another one of my sponsors, Above the Yellow Line, and my boys at Premier Racing Setups, and of course y'all guys at V-Speed, Eddie, you. Y'all put on a hell of a broadcast every single week, and we appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all next week or the week after. Let's get these playoffs going, baby.
A well-deserved off week next week. Jeremy Gardner, go celebrate, and we will see you at Richmond to start the playoffs.
Sir, we'll see you there.
And we'll move right along now. Who Sky Shrek is standing by with our second place finisher, Jake Ham.
Hey, Jake, you got a copy?
Got a copy.
P2 tonight, it's a good result, but is there anything you think you could have done better to get yourself the win?
Yes, taking tires on the second to last caution.
All right, well, tell me about that. I was going to say, tell me about that tire wear tonight, because the tire wear looked pretty rough out there. There's a lot of fall off.
It really was. And, for the first run, I was just hanging, behind Duke, and I'm like, I'm just going to, fuel save here a little bit. And then I think he kind of fell off there a little bit, and I had to get around him because Gardner was, catching back up after he fell off there a little bit. And I thought, man, we're going to go green. This is going to be great. And then when we got that caution go in, and when the next one came out or whatever, and I saw everybody dive in except for a few of us, I was like, oh no. And I was able to, kind of hang with it for like, I think 10, 15 laps or whatever. But then that's when it just felt like the tires really fell off after like, I don't know, 25, 30 laps, maybe, give or take. And once you lose them, like they're gone. There was no getting them back. And right there, even at the end, I'm still trying to figure it out. My back left tire was at 51%, and I've never had my back left be anything lower anywhere than anything else. So I don't know what was going on there. I need to look into my pedals and see if something was going on with my brake pedal. But all in all, honestly, I thought it was a fun run. There was some good battling there up front, and good sportsmanship too. It's nice to see that, and it's nice to see somebody else get on the first place every once in a while.
All right, I was going to say, you might not have won this one, but you did get 4 wins this year. How much of an advantage do you think that gives you looking ahead, not just to Richmond, but the rest of the playoffs?
I definitely feel like it's given me just a lot more confidence, going into the playoffs with what I have. And previous seasons, even also, I came in kind of as an underdog or had to battle my way through, and I'm in a completely different spot, stepping into the sim and just everything. Like, I legitimately feel like every single race I can win, and I haven't felt like that before, so I think it puts me in a really good position to have a step up and put on a good show for the end.
All right, well, anyone you want to thank or shout out tonight?
Yeah, first and foremost, Jam Printing Promotions, title sponsor of the series, broadcaster of the series, and Alexander PCs. Obviously, you guys for hosting it. Again, I say it every time I'm up here. It's fun to go back, watch, and listen. I love hearing my name, so thanks for always saying it. And then, let's see, Go Locker for hosting us, Mike Browning for the paints and stuff that he does, and then obviously to raise awareness for Burnouts for Bennett and everything that he's going through fighting the fight. Appreciate everybody, donating anything they can there. And that's all I got. Oh, my family and friends too, and my pit crew. They're top notch tonight.
All right, well, congrats on P2, Jake Ham.
Thanks, sir.
And now standing by with Logan, it's going to be our third place finisher tonight, Patrick Drabick.
We've got Patrick Drabick now down here on that third step of the podium. Patrick, we saw you come in every time that we had a caution, a couple other drivers electing to stay out on that second one. How important do you think that was for you to put the Jam Printing and Promotion 07 up here on third place?
I found out during practice, I mean, even if you had 5 hard laps on those tires, they had some pretty significant fall off. I wasn't in really any position that I needed points here tonight, so I figured, I would gamble and come down and grab those tires. And a couple people, I think only like 5 guys stayed out, and so I guess it wasn't much of a gamble to come get the tires. And then the way the rest of the race kind of played out, I think it all equalized.
It certainly seemed like it. A lot of different strategies and a very bold one coming from the 26 on that last restart where you started in that second row. You had Logan Sturgeon in front of you leading us to that green flag. How on edge were you knowing that he had so many laps on those tires and you're right behind him on a set of freshies?
Well, I'm kind of used to Logan's doing dumbass things. So, I didn't shock me too much. But I was a little bit nervous. But Logan's a great driver. He knew what he was doing, and he knew how to get out of the way. But he was fighting for his race and his playoffs and things like that. But Logan's, what are you going to do?
I just got a phone call, and I heard that you made the naughty list with that one. But Patrick Drapick, you had the first win of the season at Daytona. Was there anything more that you felt like you could do to maybe come away with the last win of this regular season?
I don't know. Not here tonight. I think Jeremy, once he kind of started putting some hot laps down, and he definitely showed he was the truck here to beat tonight. Jake Ham had a hell of a race, too. I don't know that I had much for either one of those. At some points in times, I think I did. And I think if I'd gotten out in front of them, I probably could have stayed in front of them. So it was a little bit of a track position game, but still had a whole hell of a lot of fun. And super cool to bring this Jam Printing and Promotions 07 Chevy Silverado home with yet another podium finish here this season.
And just a little bit of a shakeup from last season at Nashville, where you did win that race. You're on the opposite side of the podium this time, but still a podium nonetheless. Patrick Drapick, is there anybody that you'd like to say thanks to before we head off into our playoffs?
Yeah, a special shout out to iRacing and all the stuff that they do for us. They're the ones that, provide the free subscriptions to everybody that gets one of our sim rigs. They also load their account up so they can buy cars and tracks and everything. So a huge shout out to them and everything that they do. Above the yellow line and Taylor Kitchen, she's amazing, and what she's doing over there is absolutely amazing. Me and Eddie get to hang out on her channel on Thursday nights and have some fun, and we are super thankful that she allows us to do that. And so thanks to her. SimMotion, they provide a lot of the equipment that we give away to these veterans. They also provided a lot of the equipment we use to build our mobile simulator. So if you're in this, if you're out there shopping for sim gear, you need to go check out SimMotion for sure. And then SAVE22. SAVE22 is an amazing organization. They're out there doing amazing things. On May 3rd, we will be with them in Massillon, Ohio, for their big hike. And I can't wait for that to come up here in a little over a month, I guess, at that point in time. But thanks for all you guys do at V-Speed too, Eddie and the whole crew. You too, Logan. You guys do an amazing work each and every week, and Sky. And I surely appreciate it, and I know all the sponsors do. But with that, I'm going to take my third place ass out of here, and have a good Friday night.
Well, congratulations once more, Patrick. You might be the second loser, but you're still a winner in all of our hearts.
There it is.
If you're going to trash the Logan name, I might as well get a stab back at it. So congratulations, buddy. We'll see you at Richmond in a couple weeks.
All right, brother. Be good. Thank you.
Well, that concludes our 10-race regular season here in the SAVE22.vet Truck Series presented by Goat Locker Racing. Sky, looking back over the course of the last 10 races, were there anything that really just stood out to you that you want to mention here before we close this out?
Man, we had so many great races. I feel like almost every race this season, I came away after this broadcast and I was like, man, that was a great race. We've had so many good ones this year. It's been a great season so far, and it's going to be even better going into the playoffs. Do want to give a quick note. The playoff order that we announced to you a couple laps ago, or towards the end of that race, is correct. George Jewell is the last car in the playoffs. He will be fighting for a chance in 2 weeks at Richmond.
Glad to hear that for George Jewell. But that will conclude our race here at Nashville for race number 10. If you enjoyed tonight's broadcast, please consider giving us a like and subscribe so you never miss another race. For everybody behind the scenes at Goat Locker Racing, Patrick Drapick, Jamie Barkus, and everybody else who helps out behind the scenes. For everybody over here at V-Speed, Adam Baker, Bradley Cooper, and of course our producer, Eddie Smith, my colleague in the booth tonight, Sky Shrek. My name is Logan Threlkeld. Thank you for watching tonight's broadcast, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time when we kick off our playoffs at Richmond.